You should make a Yoda one. You should make a Yoda one. Did you hear me? That.
I was once a Jedi Knight, same as your father. Over 1,000 generations of Jedi Knights were guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Times.
I've encountered devotees. You believe it's this morning. You will succeed. How dark this boy's future is, I don't trust her.
We've been dying many days since we came back to
My days go by when I'm father.
I found a way to save you.
save me.
Darth Vader helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force. He was too dangerous to be kept alive. He must break through the fog of lies the Jedi created.
I promise. I won't fail again.
I know there is good in you.
He who raised the son. Twisted by the dark side. I believe you will bring balance to the Force.
Listen up. This election's about.
I already have a question in front. Yes, sir.
I feel like you need to adjust the settings on that because I couldn't really understand the words because
Yeah.
they were so deep.
Yeah, the bass was too high, wasn't it? Yeah, I had the same problem back there. Again, thanks for the feedback, Isaiah. Yes, sir. No, I do appreciate it. I do. All right. George Lucas wrote and directed Star Wars in the late 70s and then in the early 80s. When Lucas produced this space western, he proposed it to those in power, those the studios that had the authority over the funds where they would go for different movie projects and that sort of thing. And George Lucas was rejected over and over and over again. It wasn't until 1973 that George Lucas finally had a hit movie called American Graffiti, which had nothing to do with Star Wars. After the success of his first movie, American Graffiti, 20th Century Fox, the studio, took a chance on him and offered him $500,000 to produce Star Wars. This is in the late 70s. George said no. He said, give me $150,000, but I get to own the rights to Star Wars and all the merchandising. So he rejected a $500,000, said 150, but I get to own the rights. Yes, sir.
150,000?
What was the movie that he produced in 1971 named again?
Well, it was 73,
73.
and it was called American Graffiti. That won't be a question.
That was my question.
The total cost of the first Star Wars movie was $11 million. That's what it cost to make, but it ended up earning $265 million during its 1977 debut. And then that movie alone, the first Star Wars, went on to make $775 million. Pretty good return on a $11 million investment. Because George Lucas retained the rights to Star Wars, because he retained the merchandising rights, it made him an instant millionaire. He then went on to write and direct the prequels, the 3 original, and then the prequels, there it is. He then sold Star Wars. Now, he was the only owner of Star Wars. It wasn't a corporation. He had Lucas Studios, but he owned it. He owned Star Wars. So after it was huge, he sold it to Walt Disney, not the man, the company, Disney Corporation, with all the rights and everything in 2012 for $4 billion. How many millions are in 1 billion?
10. Wait, no.
How many millions are in 1 billion?
900.
900 million.
Wait, what's the guy name?
100 million.
999.
We're all over. We're all over.
900 million.
What'd you say, Nick?
Hey, no.
100
900.
Times that by 10.
No.
2 million.
900 million.
One.
90,000.
999 million. 900.
All right, hold on. Time out. Time out. There's 1,000 millions in 1 billion. Well, I didn't know that was such a hot question. Yes, sir. Well, Disney. He sold it to Disney.
Disney?
Yeah. He sold it to Disney. Not Walt Disney, the company.
For 1 billion.
4 billion.
Hey, I haven't already.
Yeah.
So cut out 400 million.
Times that by 4. He got 400. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 4,000 million is 4 billion. Yeah. Because 1 billion is 1,000 millions. You with me? Okay.
How many?
It's a lot of money.
What is it?
It's a lot of money.
How many billions are in a trillion?
Because George Lucas believed in his idea back in the 70s, because he believed in this idea, it was kind of a passion project of his. He went on to go from being broke in the 70s, even American Graffiti. I mean, you'd think if he had a successful movie, like he'd just be rich instantly. It's not how it works. He went from being basically broke in the 70s to in 2012, he became a billionaire. Isn't that wild? All because he simply believed in this weird space age. Really, it's a Western. If you really look at what it is, it's a space Western. And that's actually kind of how he tried to sell it. And the production company said, that's dumb. Little did they know, later on, there would be theme parks made out of Star Wars. Like right now, you can go down to Orlando, to Disney World, and there is a Star Wars world. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
No, I did.
Yeah. To put his success in perspective, this is kind of fun. There's almost 8 billion people in the world, right? there's only 2,700 billionaires in the whole world. 2,700 billionaires in the whole world. There's 336 million people in the US. Only 735 Americans are billionaires or higher.
Wait, how many people are there in the U.S.?
About 336 million in the US. And George Lucas is one of those 735 billionaires. All because he liked his idea. He liked his idea. I'm not gonna ask any questions on numbers, so unless you really wanna know, I'm not gonna ask any questions on numbers. Or maybe I will.
How many billionaires were in America?
2,700, as of when I looked this up about 3 months ago. Let me give you a little bit of Darth Vader's history, just the character himself. Oh, that's why I'm wearing black, by the way. That's why I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm sure you guys knew that.
Hot?
I'm sure you guys knew. Am I hot? No?
Sweating.
No,
You are
I'm a high oil producer. I'm just always have a sheen about me. They don't know what to
I
think.
used to be in school, and they would say, "Is your face shining?" I said, "Because my face would get so oily."
I've always been that way. I know. I am a little warm though, so it might be a little bit of sweat. Okay, listen up. After revising some things, what George did is originally, let's see, do I have this? I don't have it in my notes. I'll just tell you this way then. Originally, Anakin Skywalker was not Anakin Skywalker. He was Anakin. Does anyone know what his original name was before the movies came out? Does anyone know? It was Anakin and Luke something. It wasn't Skywalker. Do you know what it was, Jay? No, that's the director and writer. The fictional character.
Luke Skywalker.
No, that's his son. The last name was different. Does anyone know what it is? And you're going to kind of see why he changed it. It was Anakin Star Killer. It was Star Killer. And so then it'd been Luke Star Killer, but it just didn't ring right. They didn't like how it sounded when they started doing the movies, so they changed it to Skywalker, which I think is a lot better myself. I'm glad they changed it. So after revising some of the drafts, after revising and making some changes, also Anakin Skywalker was originally a Jedi assassin. So originally in the story, what he would do is he would go into, he was a Jedi, but he was like a double agent. And so he was a bad guy disguised as a good guy. And he would go into like where the Jedis are and he would use the Force and he would assassinate other Jedis. But it never was with a lightsaber. It was just with the Force. Like the whole choke thing that Darth Vader will do. He would like choke out Jedis and he would assassinate them. Yes, sir? Star Killer, yeah. Which they paid homage to in the newest Star Wars, because does anyone remember what the base was called? Like the new Death Star, you know what it was called? It was called something base. It was called Star Killer Base. That's what it was called. The new Death Star in the newest Star Wars. And that's why they called it that, because that was his original idea for the last name. It's kind of paying homage to that original name. Okay. In the prequels, in the story, you can see how Anakin slowly does become Darth Vader. And this is where I want to kind of give you the story, the summary of the story, and then we're going to pull out some lessons that we can learn from Darth Vader. At a very young age, Anakin was separated from his mother. He never knew who his father was. And when he was separated from his mother, he was actually plagued by dreams and visions of his mother being hurt. Like he would have these visions come in his mind of his mom like being hurt, and she would be crying, and it basically tortured him from childhood up to his adolescent years. So that's not a good thing to have over and over in your head. So because of these dreams and visions, when he was a teenager, he went to the planet of, does anyone know? Starts with a T? No. You're a couple weeks behind, Dom. Tatooine. He went to Tatooine. There's no other Star Wars nerds in here? Am I the only Star Wars nerd? That's very possible. That's possible.
I've watched it, but I don't.
You've watched it, but okay. He goes to the planet of Tatooine and hopes to save her because he's having these dreams and visions of her like being hurt. He wants to save her. He finds out that she's been kidnapped by these people that live on Tatooine. They were called Tuskens, and they captured her as prisoner. They're like making her be like a slave, and they were injuring her. They're like hurting her, torturing her, that sort of thing. And because of her injuries, he was not able to save her. He got to her before she died, but then it just so happened that she died right in his arms. So when that happened, he went on a rage. Something clicked in his brain, and he ended up wiping out the entire Tusken village, the men and the women and the kids. And so that kind of was like a glimpse into his future, unfortunately. Through that fear and through that rage, he killed all the Tuskens. He went on to become a Jedi, and a very good one. It was supposedly he was the best Jedi pilot, starfighter pilot that they ever had. But he really wasn't interested in following a lot of the Jedi rules. One thing with the Jedi, it's just one of their rules, is they can't get married. It's just part of their laws, basically. Can't get married. Can't get married. He went against that Jedi code, and in secret, he married Padme, was her name. He also went against the Jedi code, and instead of taking one of the bad guys to basically the Jedi court, he just executed him. He executed him. Yes, sir?
Why can't they get married?
I don't know. It's kind of like a religious thing that the Jedis have. Yeah, I don't really know exactly.
Wait, who was he married to again?
Her name is Padme.
Padme, that's her name?
Yeah. Yep, you got it. No. Padme. Padme. Yep. He executed one of the bad guys when he should have taken him back to the Jedi Council, so that went against the Jedi law as well. Now, instead of being plagued by dreams and visions of his mother being hurt, now the dreams and visions switch to his wife. So now he's having these dreams and these visions of pretty much the same thing, but not his mom, but now it's his wife. So he feels like he's going through this whole thing all over again. And he's having this fear and this obsession kind of wash over his brain and his emotions, and it's really kind of freaking him out. He's told by who we would learn to be the Emperor that you can actually control death, not with the Force that the Jedi use, but the other side of the Force, which is called the what? Does anyone know? Dark side. Thank you, Dom. Appreciate it. A fellow. Would you claim to be a Star Wars nerd? Would you claim that? Not. Okay, gotcha. Right. So who would become the Emperor basically tricked him and told him about this legend of this other Jedi who turned to the dark side, and he could control who died and who didn't. Unfortunately, it was a lie. It was just a legend that he basically told Anakin because he knew he was afraid that his wife was going to die, just like his mother did. So he was hanging around with the Emperor. He was hanging around with people that he really shouldn't have been hanging around with. And then things kind of come to a head. And one of the main Jedi leaders who was on the Jedi Council, his name was Mace Windu, realized that the Emperor is the Emperor and he's a bad guy. And so what happens is, because Anakin felt that the Emperor was the only one that could teach him the dark side to save his wife, he protected the Emperor from Mace Windu, ended up ultimately killing Mace Windu, one of the head of the Jedi Council. That basically took him completely from the Jedi over to the dark side at that moment, when that happened. Then, through the leading of the Emperor, he follows order what? Does anyone know? It's a certain order. Come on, Dominic. Order what? It's a number. You remember? It's very... Dominic, you are a Star Wars nerd. Just accept it. It's okay. Just accept it. It's all right. Order 66 comes about, and Anakin leads it. Order 66 said, kill all the Jedi. Just all the Jedi. So all the stormtroopers, anyone they had in their armies, the clones, all that, turned on the Jedi, wiped them out. And then Anakin himself goes to where they're called younglings, the little children are, who are being trained to be Jedi, and he kills all the children. It's just like the Tusken village all over again. The Emperor lied to him. The Emperor said that he could control who dies and who doesn't. He believes that the Jedi are actually the bad guys at this point. He has this smash out fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is a really cool fight. That's the one with the lava behind him and stuff. You remember that from the video?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's a good one. Through that fight, Obi-Wan injures him. He gets burned severely, and so he's put into his black suit, the Darth Vader black suit. That's not for style. That is a life support system is what that is. That's why he has that weird breathing and stuff. That's why he has that suit on. It's not just to be... no, it's not his skin. It's a suit.
I know, but it's
Yeah.
like his like.
Oh, now it is. I mean, he would take it off though for like cleaning and stuff. You actually see that a couple times where it's just him. He's missing his limbs and stuff, and he's in this like cleaning medical bath thing, whatever. So anyway. Controlling who dies and who doesn't. Death. I'm not sure, Thomas. A lot.
All the time.
You're not gonna win.
He gets injured by Obi-Wan Kenobi and has to wear the black suit. That's his life support system. I think that's about it in a nutshell, I think. Okay. And then what he does is he basically goes on this, I don't know if you want to call it a journey or this obsession with basically wiping out anything that is left of the Jedi, anything that's left of what's called the rebellion. He now wants to not only control death, but he wants to control everything. This everything. Everything that Darth Vader does is motivated by what? Someone tell me. What? What comes right before rage?
Anger.
Well, further back. What originates? Fear. Everything that Darth Vader does originates from fear. What is fear actually? It's the avoidance of what? Of what? I can't hear you, JJ. Darkness? Kinda. What is the ultimate motivator in this world, ultimately?
Fear.
Survive.
You're dancing all around. It starts with P, ends with ain.
Pain.
Pain. So obviously, what Darth Vader was afraid of was pain. He didn't want pain for his mom originally. He didn't want pain for his wife. He didn't want pain for himself. He wanted to control pain, and the ultimate pain bringer is death. Is death. It's really a sad story, really. I mean, Darth Vader, he's become one of the most iconic, like, supervillains, bad guys, in our pop culture world. But really, it's tragic. It really is a tragic story.
Because he was once good.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Caden?
How is it good when they're not even real people?
Well, we already had this, it's the ideal. It's the idea of. It's stories. It's his stories that inspire us to think. Yep. So what's tragic about it is many other people follow the same path. They're afraid of something, they're afraid of pain, they're afraid of whatever. Fear takes them over, and then they try to control. Control is the effort someone will have to balance out their fear. If you're afraid of something, you'll deem to control that thing. It was all about fear and control. A couple lessons. I guess more lessons. A couple more lessons we can learn from Darth Vader. Number 1, stay close to good. Stay close to good. The things you listen to, the lessons you see and hear, the people that you let into your life, values that you see and hear and then adopt for yourself. Over time, before Anakin was Darth Vader, over time, Anakin moved further and further and further away from what was good. He didn't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to be Darth Vader. He didn't just wake up one day being a good guy, being a good Jedi, and then wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to kill all the children in this room. People don't do that. It goes from a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. A little bit of pain turns into a little more pain. A little bit of fear turns into a little more fear. And all of a sudden you go from just a kid to a mass murderer.
Did you say Luke over time?
You what over time?
Did you say Luke over time became Darth Vader?
Anakin. Anakin moved away from the lessons that were taught him by the Jedi Council, by Obi-Wan himself. We see in the movies, in the prequels, we see Anakin being in places he shouldn't have been. Anakin wasn't even supposed to be in the Emperor's chambers when Mace Windu entered the room. If he wouldn't have been there, he wouldn't have been involved. He shouldn't have been there. He was told to go back to the temple by the authority, by the Jedi authority. So he broke that rule. He broke that law. He was in places he shouldn't have been. He should not have been hanging around with the Emperor. That was not the place he should have been. And because of that, he got himself in situations that he shouldn't have been in, even in the first place. I want to say this. I just want you to hear this. To fail, this is how you fail. You ready? This is how you fail. Cultivate. You know what cultivate means?
Yep.
Grow, help, serve, whatever. To fail, cultivate a few bad habits. Whatever those bad habits are. And then simply bide your time. Another way to say it is, to fail, begin a few bad habits and then just wait. Because those bad habits will bring bad times, I guarantee it. Anakin hung out with people he shouldn't have been hanging out with. He went to places that he should not have been. He began to disregard little rules. He began to disregard rules that didn't really hurt anybody. He began to disregard rules and boundaries within his world. Again, he didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a terrible person. It went little by little by little. Have you ever seen anyone like really mess up? Maybe they just crash out, or maybe they just, something happens, they get put back in lockup or whatever. Maybe they go home and fail out at home or whatever. You ever seen someone do something like that, and then you say, maybe not out loud, but you say to yourself, oh, I could have called that. Or, I saw that coming. Why? Because you saw the signs before it happened, right? You saw the step by step by step, the little by little by little, and then all of a sudden, when something big happens, it's like, yeah, I could have told you that. Even at Pineview, we have a pretty good feeling of when we have a boy come in, who is going to fail and who's not. Now, sometimes we get it wrong, and hopefully sometimes we are wrong. And we don't have like a label we put on anybody, but based on behavior, based on attitude, and also based on how closely you hang to truth, that shows if you're going to fail or not. And the best way to show if you're close to truth or not is if you admit when you're wrong. If you can admit when you're wrong, you have a very good chance of being successful. If you live in denial, I don't have a lot of hope, to be honest. Because the closer you live to truth, the closer you'll live to better decisions. We talked about Anakin hanging around with people he shouldn't have hung around with. I want you to see what you think about this quote. I want your feedback. This is a quote. I didn't make it up. I just saw it. I thought it was kind of neat. I just want to talk about it for a minute. The quote is this: you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Let me say it again. You are, like who you are, the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with or hang out with the most. This could be family, this could be parents, this could be grandparents, this could be friends. Whoever you have in your inner circle, you tend to take on attributes of them. Now you still stay your own person. I'm not saying you copy someone completely, but you are the average of the 5 people you hang out the most with. Do you agree with that or not agree with that? Someone tell me. Isaiah, what do you think?
I don't think it's always true.
Okay.
Because every single person has a certain amount that they hang out with their friends or they rely on their friends.
Okay.
Like some people keep a little bit of distance between their friends because they know that they can be bad influences, or you might rely on them too much.
Sure. So if you keep your boundaries with certain people because you know they're a bad influence, for example, maybe they would not be these 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Or they might not have as much of an influence
Okay.
on the way you behave.
Okay. All right. Dom? Speak up, Dominic. Okay, your environment, yeah. So there's a psychological argument called nature versus nurture. Have you ever heard of that? Okay, nature is what you're born with, so to speak, like what's inside. Nurture is your environment, what influences you. Basically, both are true. And so I think you're right. I think there definitely is influence from people that you grow up with, those that are closest to you, that sort of thing, especially in your developmental years. Do you guys remember what your developmental years, when you guys are done cooking, so to speak, with your brain? Do you guys remember? For boys? Do you remember?
27.
About 27. About 26 to 28, boys are done cooking. Their brain is fully developed at 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there. So especially in those, and there's identity forming years, and those are your adolescent to early 20s. You basically decide subconsciously what kind of person you're going to be during really what years a lot of you are in right now. Yes, sir.
How I hear it is that Anakin Skywalker was at first around in a good environment, then he went to a bad environment.
Okay.
He hung out in more of a bad environment. He ended up becoming a bad person.
Right. A lot too. That was like his main guy, because he had a very addictive and obsessive personality. That would be the nature part of Anakin. And if you have an addictive or an obsessive type personality, your environment, like what Dominic said, your environment will have more of an effect on you. To where if you're more independent, you're not very obsessed easily or addictive, the environment might not have as much of an impact on you. Does that make sense, Isaiah? So maybe kind of what you're saying is maybe like Dominic's saying, I have more of a, addictive type personality, and maybe you don't. And so your environment will have a different persuasion on you. Possibly. So, and everyone's different, everyone's different. Okay, sake of time, let's move on. Last thing here. Let's see, we already talked about this. Darth Vader, he wasn't just trying to conquer the Empire or the Senate or even like the universe or the galaxy. Ultimately, he was trying to conquer death itself. That's really what he was trying to conquer deep down inside. Those who do not accept death often become an agent of it. Doesn't mean you're actually going to go murder someone, but it means you allow things to die in your life. Could be relationships, could be goals, could be dreams. The more you do not want to accept that things change, or people die, or dreams even can die or change, the more you say, no, I'm not going to accept that, oftentimes you yourself become an agent of it. And this comes from, and here's number 2, imbalanced, so not balanced, but imbalanced fear is a deadly motivator in a negative way. It's a deadly motivator. Healthy fear motivates in a positive way. You can have fear in a positive way. Fear can actually push us to be better. Some of you in here, you don't have to raise your hand, but some of you in here have said things to me like this: I'm never going to be like my father. Or as long as I'm not like my mother. Something like that. That is a fear-based statement that says, I didn't like what happened there, so therefore I'm not going to become like that for the fear of what result would come about. Yes, sir?
Would you say
What, Thomas? Number two, like what I said for number two? Imbalanced fear is a deadly motivator. Imbalanced fear is a deadly motivator. But healthy, balanced fear can be very positive in your life. Healthy fear motivates us to rightly avoid pain. It can keep us safe. Healthy fear. I don't go speeding down the highway in my Challenger primarily because I have a fear of getting a speeding ticket. It's not because I think I'm going to lose control. I did race car driving for 3 years. I can control a car, and that car can go pretty fast. But I have a healthy fear of getting a speeding ticket. One, I don't want my car impounded. If I'm going like over like whatever, is it 25 and over is considered reckless driving? Is that what it is? It could be impounded. I could be going to jail, and I'd be paying a lot of money. I don't want those things, right? Yes, sir.
What's the fastest you've ever gone?
I'm not going to say on camera. It's right here. It's right here. There's no cameras. It's right in my face. Healthy fear of getting a speeding ticket keeps me from paying money, going to jail, having my car impounded, etc., etc. I have this picture of this moose up here. You know why I have this picture in my office?
Why?
Thank you, Robert, for asking. I appreciate that. You guys have seen this in my office, right?
Yeah, because I knocked it down.
You did knock it down. That's right. You did knock it down. I have this in my office because it's a reminder to me when I was in Alaska. I would go through the wilderness. I'd go through the trails. I always had a big gun on my hip because I had a healthy fear of what's out there. Moose are cool. Moose are a cool animal. But I tell you what, you cross one the wrong way, that thing could kill me in a second. And actually the females, they're called cows, if they have a baby, they're the most dangerous. Not because of their antlers, but because of their massive, sharp hooves. They'll just pummel you to death. I know people, like personally, who have been paralyzed by a moose. So the healthy fear of what's out there allowed me to enjoy Alaska. It allowed me to enjoy Alaska, but I wasn't just running around unprepared wherever I wanted. I wasn't foolish about it. So that healthy fear allowed me to stay safe and prepared and still enjoy my life. Yes, Caden.
Did you know?
Did you know?
Okay, look. A moose,
Uh-huh.
the girl of a moose is not a cow.
Okay.
Because the boy of a cow is a bull.
Okay, that's what they're called.
You said it was a moose, though.
Yeah, that's the animal. The boys are bulls, the females are called cows.
So then why don't you just say bull?
Because it's a moose.
It's a bull.
Okay, thank you, Caden. I appreciate your insight on that. Yes, Tyler.
So what you're saying is that you had a fear of paralyzation or death.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I did have a healthy fear that if I came across the moose, it could seriously hurt me, right? And so because of that fear, I was prepared. I didn't go places I shouldn't go. I didn't do things that would put me in a vicarious situation with that thing. Make sense? And when I did have to interact with moose, which I did it in a way that I stayed safe. You keep trees between you, and you make a lot of noise, and you make a lot of movement, and they will turn, and they will usually go away. I've scared some moose away.
Did you ever shot a moose?
No, but I had a drawn one once. I had a cow coming at me. I was on a four-wheeler, and I drew my revolver, and I almost had to take her, but the noise from my four-wheeler turned her away, and I was able to get past her. Yeah.
She was coming after you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I was near her baby. Yeah. I didn't know she was there. I mean, I was on my four-wheeler, and all of a sudden, there she is, you know. So. Okay. Thank you for joining us, Thomas. All right, last thing, and then I'll be done. So I talked about healthy, balanced fear. Thomas, you're hilarious. Here's what imbalanced fear does. Imbalanced, unhealthy fear brings pain to you and those around you. It brings unnecessary anxiety. You won't try new things. You'll give up on your dreams. You'll give up on your goals. You'll say, it's too scary. I'm not going to do it because I'm too afraid of failing or whatever the pain could be or whatever, so I'm not even going to try. Darth Vader had an imbalanced, unhealthy fear of death, first for his mom, then for his wife. It caused him to become desperate. That desperation emotionally led to anger and rage. And when our emotions go up, what goes down? Logic. Logic goes down. So everything he did was an emotionally based decision. Everything he did was fueled by emotion of fear and then rage, frustration, confusion, all those things. When your emotions are in the driver's seat and your logic is thrown in the trunk, things don't go well for you. Things don't go well for me. I know all of you understand exactly what I'm saying there. Darth Vader decided to follow after his emotions, and he became a lonely, painful supervillain. If he would have followed his logic, he would have had a whole different path. I'm not saying he would have been like the most top Jedi or whatever, but he definitely would have not become what he became. So of course the question is, what are you going to follow and what am I going to follow? My fear and my emotions, or am I going to follow my logic? And logic is okay to be fueled by emotions, but emotions should never be in the driver's seat. That's when it becomes dangerous and a real problem. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Thomas, you want to help me with the whatevers? You want to, Thomas? Or no? You gonna try for this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
If I get the first one wrong, can I help?
No, you gotta choose now.
But hey, I would like to help.
Huh?
What do you guys like to help?
I'm gonna have Junior help. Come on up, Junior.
He's the smallest.